Vince Ciattei, welcome to the Running Fight podcast. How are you doing this afternoon?
Thanks, Dominic. I'm tired.
Tired.
But yeah, I'm good. I told you on the way in, like, my photo guy Noble, like, I just didn't set an alarm for my nap, and I probably would have slept until 5 o'clock, and this is 1 o'clock start time for this podcast. So I'm glad he woke me up. But yeah, I'm good.
Are you a big napper in general during training, and what does that look like normally? Like every day, only on workout days?
I think I'm in Flagstaff. I am, like, especially when it heats up and we have to work out earlier in the day. Like, it's really been heating up there. So yeah, I'd say, like, generally I feel like I function a lot better when I can do that. So yeah.
What's the nap routine? Do you have like a set time on your iPhone? Or is it like just go with the flow, wake up whenever?
Yeah, I have, like, I don't know. This is like, I feel like this is like a divisive thing for people, because I remember, like, in college I would, like, set an alarm. Like, I would set a new alarm. I would just have one thing, and I would set an alarm either for the morning or for the afternoon. Like, I would set an alarm for the exact time that I wanted to wake up, and, like, my girlfriend at the time was like, this is like, why don't you just set a bunch of alarms? And now I have like 100 alarms, and I'm dating a girl now, Regan, on the team, and she's just like, why don't you just set one alarm each time? So, like, you can't please anybody.
Yeah, you can't please everyone.
Yeah, I have 100 alarms, and I just, like, scroll through until I have one, and I'm like, okay, I don't need to type anything in.
Right.
That's the routine.
When I think of, like, setting a bunch of alarms, I feel like I only do that the morning, like, for a morning flight when I don't want to miss a flight.
Yeah.
For you, any horror stories of missing a flight on the way to a race over the years?
Last summer, I didn't miss a flight, but I had a pretty late flight. So I was in Leuven after USA's, and I was racing in Lignano in Italy, and I was getting in at like 10 p.m. as it was. It was just a direct flight from Brussels, but the flight got delayed and then delayed again, and then I got there, and by the time I was getting there, there was only one other person they needed to shuttle from Venice to Lignano. So I got into Lignano at like 2:15 in the morning the night before the race. Now, granted, the race was at like 10 p.m. the next day, so I still had like some time, but I was sharing, like, the hotel guy had to stay up for me.
Oh, no.
And I got in at 2:15, and he had to take me to my room and unlock it with, like, a master key, because they only give 3 key cards per room, and there was already 3 or 4 athletes in the room. Like, they, like, cram the room. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a cool meet, but the lodging is, like, a little
Horror
bit
story.
like. So I literally got in. At this point, it's like 2:30 or 2:40 the night before the competition, and I got into the room with this guy who did not want to be awake for me, and I had to crawl over this, like, long jump athlete who spoke no English to share this, like, sofa bed, like, head to head with him. And it was so hot in there. Yeah, that was not great. Yeah, I think it didn't miss the flight, but that's the worst in recent memory in terms of, like, yeah, just a horror show of trying to somehow not be stressed for the race the next day through all of that. So yeah,
I think a lot of people, when they think about the, like, professional runner lifestyle from the outside, people who aren't in it think it's this, like, super glamorous thing where you do your run and then, like, you get some food and you throw the Normatex on and watch Netflix. But in reality, a lot of times it's traveling across the world, trying to hit a standard, crawling across the bed of someone who doesn't speak English. Can you speak to the aspect of, like, just how crazy it is to be a high-level professional runner?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've experienced, like, a lot of different tiers of that, even, like, this year compared to last year. Like, last year I was, like, like, sort of doing that sort of scrambling around, like just trying to race into fitness, like wasn't in a great spot, like was getting my feet back under me in Flagstaff. But yeah, like it's so different when you don't know if you're gonna get into this race or that race. Like it feels like when you need it most is when it's most difficult to have those opportunities, because it's definitely a sport where the rich get richer. Like if you're already good, you're going to get into more good races that'll make you even better. Like so I've definitely I've had 2 stretches of my pro career where I've been on the shelf injury wise long enough where it almost resets that process a little bit. Like you start to achieve and you reach a level where you're getting into better races, your life in between races is going a little bit smoother because you have a plan, because you're healthy, and then something happens and then you reset and you're scrambling again, and it's your day-to-day life is more stressful because you have to add more time for rehab and more time for cross training and all these other things that aren't naturally as much a part of your routine. You don't want them to be if you're healthy. And then you're waiting last second for race confirmations, you're pacing, like you're doing all these other things like just to try to make it happen. So yeah, I think I've seen, like, I haven't even seen the top of that spectrum. I still haven't raced a Diamond League. Like, I'm hoping that maybe, not even maybe, like, I'm really hoping that changes as soon as possible coming off of this weekend. But yeah, I think I have an appreciation for, like, now, like, I can know that I'm in the, LA Grand Prix, like, as a gold label event that I knew I was in, like, a couple months beforehand. And I can be, it's not the Olympics, but even compared to where I've been, it's, like, nice to be in a race like that. Like, and know that I can, me and Coach Haas can structure the training the way we want to, because even that feeds into it, like knowing a race schedule. So yeah, I feel like I've had a lot of different levels of like scrambling and preparedness, like based on injuries through the years.
Preparing for this conversation, I went on the good old college profile. You went to Virginia Tech, which we'll get into, but in your last season there, the last thing that you have documented is 2018 outdoors, and the first thing that's listed is placed 14th in the 1500 meter at the USATF Outdoor Championships in Des Moines, Iowa, crossing the finish line in a time of 3:43.53. Comparing that to last night, like obviously it was 6 years ago, but how crazy is it to think that, like, man, like I placed 14th in the country, now I'm 4th in the country, I ran 3:43, and even that relation to just like how much better the U.S. has gotten at this event. Like 3:43 wouldn't have made it out of the first round.
Yeah. I mean, it is wild now. Like, because that year I got second twice at NCAAs, and my like 1500 PB was 3:43 at the NCAA meet.
Wow.
Like that, that wouldn't get out of the first. That wouldn't even get 2 regionals, I don't think, anymore. Like it's really crazy how the level has risen, and it's risen from those 3:43 guys that are now 3:39 guys to the guys at the top who are now 3:30 guys, like 3:29 guys yard. It's funny because there's, even with those races, as different as those results look on paper, there's some similarities there where I missed the final by 0.02 of a second that year. And I was coming off of NCAAs pretty confident, and that was, to be honest, like the last time in my career that I had the confidence that I do now. I think it's legitimately taken 6 years as a pro to like recreate the confidence I had at the end of my college career to the confidence I have now. So, but it is cool to see that, like, back then that was still only 14th and not making the final, and it's another near miss. Like it's a quarter of a second away from an Olympic team, but it's also running getting fourth and not 14th, like you said, and running 3:31, not 3:43. Like, so I'm absolutely proud of that. Like, it hasn't been a smooth road for decent stretches of that 6 years. And yeah, it is, I was thinking about the past trials a lot this weekend, but I didn't even really think back. That was my first USA's. So it is cool to think about the journey, like in between those two performances.
Going back 24 hours ago, so you raced yesterday, I think at 5:47 p.m. So 24 hours ago would have been 1:34. What did yesterday look like for you leading into the race? And what is the emotion and pressure and stress like leading into, debatably yesterday was the biggest race of your life?
Oh, I'd say it was for sure. And to be honest, oh, yeah, that's the alarm that I think I set for. Do you want me to get that real quick?
Sure.
Yeah. It's for me, it really comes in little spurts now, because I think I definitely used to be someone who would get not overwhelmed, but just you just get so you want it so bad that there is a line where that nervous energy turns into anxious energy, and then it's not productive anymore. So I try to work on spreading that out as much as possible. If I feel that coming on, I try to just let it manifest, let my mind wander into some race theoreticals, and then come back to earth, so that it doesn't all come out on race day. I try to spread it out over the weeks leading up to it, not suppress it and be oh, we can't be too amped up too early. If it comes on, just let it happen, so that it doesn't all come on at once on race day. And I think that helped me, especially with the 3 races in the 4 days, because I think part of why the final went well was because I was confident that I was going to improve with the 3 rounds, with the strength that I have this year training up in Flag. And so I think that confidence kept me calmer, and that helped me, get a good night's sleep the night before the race. Now, at 1:30 would have been probably when I was trying to nap, and I definitely did not. So still not a perfect day of rest, but I think the general prep was pretty straightforward. I slept in as late as I could, and that was huge. Because I try to minimize, this might sound weird, but I try to minimize the time that I'm awake before a race, because I think the more time awake, the more time my brain will go into those too much nervous energy too early. So I just did my shakeout, ate, tried to nap, didn't work, called my parents, called my girlfriend for a bit, did a little bit of visualization, and just all weekend, all I wanted to do was just trust the build up would result in the result that I wanted in the moment. So I think I did a pretty good job of that during the day yesterday. When I started the warm up, I was breaking it, but but until then, I think I kept it under wraps, and I think that was good, because if I had been like that all day, it's a long day if it's all you can think about and it's all you can do. So talking to loved ones, all that stuff breaks it up for me. I think it's good to break it up.
I think so many people are curious what it looks like the warm-up process, before the gun goes off, the hour leading into it. Because high school kids, even a lot of NCAA athletes, it's they have so much freedom with when they can warm up, where they can warm up, and it's just you got to check in right before the race and you're good to go. You can line up. I know these races, it's hyper-specific. You got to be in the right place, right time. What is that last out? Take me through the process to get to the line.
Sure. It's funny you mentioned the difference in college versus now, because and I think this is probably fairly unique, but at Virginia Tech, you know, Coach Thomas, who's back there now, and he's coaching Cole, obviously, and Cooper. Very regimented warm-up routine. Like, he had everything locked down for us. I could do now as a pro, like, whatever I want. Like, which is sort of ironic because you would expect it to be,
right.
you know, you would expect as you go
More
through
rigid.
the ranks, things to be more like, you know, specific. I have, you know, a few of the elements of the warm-up routine that I did at OTC, my previous club with Coach Rowe and Jimmy Radcliffe. I have a few elements from Coach Thomas. But yeah, like, I'll just do a jog, I'll do my drills, like, I'll do a little bit of like a little like short tempo to try and like wake myself up. And that's always an interesting one because the bigger the meet is, the easier it is. Like, your heart rate's almost in that zone before, you know, before you even do a tempo. Like, so I think the biggest thing I actually think is like, I like sticking to a plan, but I do think it's important to like listen to your body. Like, I didn't take bicarb before the prelim because I was planning on taking it before the, you know, that's part of my process and a lot of people's process at this level now. I didn't take it before the prelim because I expected to go semifinal, final. I took it before the semifinal, and I like taking it. You know, I've been taking it through the last season. I felt like so jittery and like so tingly, even just jogging around, not doing the tempo or the strides or anything. I didn't like that feeling. The occasion was so big, I was like, I'm not going to do that on the final, like on Monday. So that's something that, like, I think you can have a plan, but at this level, I think that the best guys like can pivot to do what they need. And I think, you know, I think that was the right decision because doing my jog and my strides and stuff, like, you know, I could tell that like I'm okay, but I'm like on the edge. And I think you just don't want things that'll push you over. So if you want to do one stride instead of 4 because like you feel like you're activated and you're ready, then that's what you do. You know, like, you got to be able to. I like the regimented. Like, coming from Coach Thomas, that worked great for me. And I like, yeah, I just have the music in. Like, I was just listening to like a little playlist that I made for the last few races this season. Like, I called it Smooth Operator because me and Lalo and a couple of the other guys on the team like listening to that song a lot. And I think it's a good mantra, like, to have. You know, there was no way any thoughts were going through my head during that race because it was so loud in there. Like, it was awesome. But, you know, if I want to have like a certain thing going through my head, then I'll try to like add that to my music. But yeah, I think just being able to like adjust to like the occasion is important. Like, this, realistically, for an Olympic trials final, you could jog 10 minutes and your body would be so switched on that you would probably just be fine. I think so.
Wow.
Like, I think you'd be fine. Like, I know I wasn't there, but I know Edwin, for our teammate for the 10K trials at pre, he forgot his uniform and then he like missed like 3 buses getting to the meet, and he was still like just chilled out and just showed up, apparently just showed up, got right off the bus, like did a little bit of warm up, and then ran 26:51 and nearly made one of the hardest teams in the world to make, like ran like an absolute champion. So like, I think it's good to remember that when your body's ready, like, it's probably ready. I think on the biggest occasions when you probably sometimes need the least, in a way. But yeah, it's definitely the most stressful time. I can tell you that. Like, that doesn't change from high school to college to whatever. It's always the most stressful before the race. It's more stressful than the race itself still after many years of doing this. So
I've heard stories specifically about like Ben Thomas guys. They've got like the most rigid warm up, but also like Jakob has a crazy rigid warm up. Yesterday, or just like in previous memory, are there any guys you see that's just like, what are you doing? Or like, why are you sprinting?
Oh, for God's sake. Sorry.
No, you're good.
I swear I turned it off. I remember, this is from cross country a while back, but I remember like we were doing a course jog and we always liked, you know, we were sort of like, you know, we knew other colleges would run their easy runs faster. Like that's the mindset of some places. And we were like, really liked that we stuck to our like really slow 8-minute pace, you know, slogs around Blacksburg. And we're running really slow on the course. And then we come up and pass the NAU team. And we're like, oh, no, like, we're not running slow enough. Like they're running like 9-minute pace. And we're just like, God, we've been doing it wrong this whole time. Like, so I do remember that, like, just seeing like, wow, they're really just like pretty much speed walking out here. But obviously they know something because they just are very good. Right. Yeah. But yeah, that was more of a collective. Yeah, I'm sure there's been individuals though that I've seen where I'm just like,
what are you doing?
I don't know what you're up to. Like, you know, I think occasional, like we had one drill that I kept from Virginia Tech because it was a race day specific drill, and I won't name it because I don't want to give away, you know, it doesn't actually do anything, but it's sort of a goofy looking drill. Like it's sort of like a stationary movement. And like, I'm sure that other people have seen me.
If I asked them this question on the podcast, they'd be like, Vince Ciattei looks weird.
Maybe not me, but I'm sure if it was like Cole, they would have been like, that guy's just like standing in place, like what is he doing? How's that prepping you? Like, I don't think that there's any physical activation to it. I think it's just like the fact that it was like a race day only drill is like that, you know, switches something on in your mind. Like, but nothing specific drill-wise with other people comes to mind, but I definitely have vague memories of going like, yeah, I don't know how that's helping you, having that thought for sure.
Speaking of going like 8-minute pace and then like passing NAU going like 9-minute pace, I think a lot of people watching, I mean, we have such like a dedicated listening base of like very hyper elite younger athletes who want to get good.
Sure.
And I think so many of them are the types to run like 6:45 pace every day because they think that's what it'll take to get to the next level. And while that work ethic is great, I think a lot of times they think that people like you are like doing that. And sure, you do that some days, but there are also those days where you get out the door and you slog, and that's important. Can you speak to how like the misconception that like pros are hammering every day and how it's really the little things built up over time that make you great and not going 6 flat every day?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, even my opinion on that has shifted somewhat over the years. Like I remember during COVID, when I was here in Eugene, like I was running my easy runs a lot faster, and was healthy, but like I'd had a lot of issues with my hips in the previous year, and like biomechanically, I was running a lot better, like running a little faster easy days. So I was generally doing that, but there was a reason to it. And I was running not super high mileage, and I was at sea level, and there's a lot of soft surfaces around here. So I think, you know, you don't have to go crazy, like frying yourself about what the proper easy run pace is for you, but it's worth at least thinking about, you know, when so much of the volume of what we do is easy running. Like, and I think maybe thinking a little more about variables like that in terms of like, oh, if I'm, you know, a high schooler running 6:45 easy pace, but then, you know, my 5K PR is between 15 and 17 minutes, like, you know, that's a higher percentage of your race pace than someone who's running 6:45 easy pace maybe as an elite athlete, but then their PR is between 13 and 14 minutes in a 5K, you know? So you think about what's, you know, the day that you're doing it, and like, I let, it's really simple advice, but I let feel dictate that a lot. Like, there are days where I'll run a bit faster because, like, either biomechanically it just feels smoother to like pick it up a little bit, or it's, you know, a nice day. My workout the day before wasn't as, you know, whatever it is, like, but there are days where I will run very slow, like, and it's just about getting that blood flow through the body. And I think this year, living at the first whole year of living at 7,000 feet has been really valuable for me to like let go of any notion that like you need to run a specific pace, because like altitude really makes you just it really forces you to let your body dictate what you should be doing on a given day. And I think that's, you know, now when I come down to sea level, like if I'm still out here running around at 7:30 pace, you know, I don't really care. Like, cause I'm just like, look, this is working for me this whole year. It's like keeping most of my easy runs pretty slow. And yeah, like I know there's other pros that run faster. There's probably other pros that run slower than I do. Like, but I like the, I just think it's good mentally as well to like, if everything you do is aiming for a certain pace, that can also be tiring mentally, especially as a high school athlete, like just getting into the sport. You know, if you then add 4 or 5 years of college, and then if you want to run post-collegiately, like, you know, if all of those runs over all of those years are like, oh, I have to run this certain pace every day, that can wear on you as well. And for longevity's sake, you know, in the sport, like, I feel like I am in the position to speak to that now because I'm 29 and I'm running better than I ever have in my life. Like, some of that is just about knowing when to switch off. And so much of running is easy running. If you can switch off during that, it helps you mentally like be up for the other things that matter, which is the workouts or the tempos or whatever. So, yeah.
Talking about the race last night, 4th in the country, 3-second personal best. So close.
Yeah.
What's the raw emotion less than 24 hours after?
Yeah.
And how much have you gone back and forth on like positive, frustrated, positive, frustrated?
I think that is the raw emotion. The raw emotion is that like every thought I have about it is just this, everything is a dichotomy. Like everything is this but this, or, you know, like I am really like, I'm really proud of it. But I'm equally, if not more, devastated that it wasn't enough. And I think the biggest part of that, you know, it's not frustration. It's just a tough thing to accept, was that I believed that I could execute the way that I did last night when no one really outside of my like little world probably was picking me to do that or believed that performance would happen. But like, I knew that I could do it, and I'm really happy that I executed it the way that I did, and it still was a quarter of a second away, you know, from making a team when I ran 3:31 and no one had broke 3:34 before at the trials. So before yesterday, of course.
Right.
Yeah. So I think those two things are like the biggest conflicting emotions right now. Is like just pride in the achievement, and also just like an overwhelming like what's keeping the devastation at bay. Like the pride is cool because I'm just happy for running fast and what that means and being so close to a dream. Even if I didn't achieve it, you know, like I can be happy that I was close to that dream. But like what's really keeping the devastation component at bay is just the overwhelming like gratitude I have for like the amount of support that I got, like, you know, with my family and friends back home from every level of my career, from, you know, Perry Hall High School, Virginia Tech, like here in Eugene, out to Flagstaff, like before I even ran, like back in Baltimore, like every level there's always just that little more support because affiliated with the Olympics. You know, that resonates with people in the running world and outside of the running world more than anything else that I could do. So when it's the Olympic trials, you just get that extra support, those extra messages, you know, before the races, after the races, and like, you know, to have my parents, my brother, like out here, like it was his first, you know, I lived in Eugene for 4 years and he'd never made it out here before. So my parents had come to the trials before and NCAAs, but yeah, it's just like, it is hard to be sad, you know. You almost feel guilty when like there's like little waves of the sadness taking over, because like, you know, you just have so much, like I have so much support, and like, you know, again, even that's two-sided, because that feeds into the devastation, because I wanted it so bad for all those people just as much as I wanted it for myself. I wanted to toe the line at Paris with Ciattei there. Like, I know how much that means to my family. Like, and yeah, but I think, I know in my heart of hearts that that's a good thing. Like, that's, you know, they're going to be proud of me no matter what, but like, I really ran a race that they can be proud of. And if it wasn't enough, you know, it wasn't enough. Still a tough pill to swallow, but that definitely mitigates that feeling to a very high degree. Just being grateful for all of them. Yeah.
3-second PR, 4th in the country, and probably debatably the most stacked 1500. I mean, it has to be with how fast y'all ran.
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel like this sets you up for the rest of the season, years to come, and even just like showing you how far you can go in the sport? I mean, 3:31 is smoking.
Yeah,
it's fast.
Thank you. It does. I mean, I think that will be, in a running sense, you know, that will be the biggest thing to sort of help reset from the no Olympics disappointment. Is, you know, this opens the doors hopefully to Diamond Leagues. Like, it hopefully opens the doors to, like, you know, whatever, like, you know, that's going to be a new world for me. And it sort of touches on what we were saying earlier. You know, last year, like, I was like, you know, Haas was fighting to get me into, you know, F level races and, you know, wherever in Europe, you know, and now, like, you know, if Cole or Hobbs or Yard like turn down a spot in Monaco or in London, like, I feel justified saying that, like, I would hopefully be the one to get that spot, you know, and that serves as a really good motivation to, like, you know, keep the chin up and keep looking ahead, because those opportunities are right on the horizon. And then talking more, you know, big scale, like, you know, there's still a Worlds next year. Like, there's the World Road Champs next year, which I was gutted I wasn't in the form I wanted to be for the inaugural, because I love road miles. And, like, you know, I think it's opportunities that'll be opened up, and it's a mindset thing too. Like, I think it, for me, in my experience, it's taken a really big occasion like that for me to get the absolute most out of myself. And it's even harder because you have to be fit enough, and you have to be healthy enough, and you have to have the occasion. All those things have to come together, at least for me, to really raise that level. And I think, but once it does, then that resets, okay, like, I've done this now. Now what do I think I'm capable of? Now who do I think I can compete with? And it's disappointing that I won't be able to, you know, showcase that in Paris, because, like, you know, based off of running 3:31 and the splits that I did and the occasion that I did, like, you know, I think that'll be competitive, like, at a world level. Like, maybe not quite for a medal, but, like, to make a final, like, at the Olympics, like, and it just speaks to the class of those guys that bested me yesterday because they're all medal threats in my book. I mean, they're unbelievable. Like, there's no shame in losing to any of those guys. But if I'm close to competing, you know, if I'm close to beating out guys like that for spots on Team USA in a, like you said, just an unbelievably stacked event, that bodes well for like taking those opportunities and combining that with mentally resetting what I'm capable of and going into Monaco or going into London or going into whatever, you know, the USA trials next year, like but maybe worlds next year, hopefully road running champs next year, thinking, okay, you know, now I'm not running for third, or now I'm not thinking, oh, like what charity that I got into this race. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to show up and try to compete that same way. Like, and not only try, but know that, hey, it's no longer this belief in my brain based on my training, based on the consistency I've had all year that I could do this. I actually did it. And that's really, I think, you know, you sometimes you just have to do it. Like, and I didn't do it in terms of making the team, but I did it in terms of executing the exact race plan that I wanted to. You know, it ended up being a fast time, way faster than I've ever run before, a time that I thought I could do, but now I know I can do. And that is, even to me, when I thought I could do it, it's a difference now, knowing that I have and knowing I can bring that forward into the opportunities that this hopefully opens up moving forward. So,
a few final questions before wrapping this thing up. One of
Sure.
those being Under Armour. Well, first off, Curry. What was the decision to bring out a Curry brand today? And is it cool, like, working with a brand that's got, like, I mean, it's cool that Curry has his, like, own line of stuff. You ever hoop in the off season?
Yeah,
Curry's.
I mean, basketball was like my first like real love. Like I played baseball and then I played basketball. So, like, you know, I like the Curry stuff. Like, I think he's like a pretty, like, he's just a great athlete to watch. Like, I think when he's retired, it's going to be a lot of people going like, man, we took this dude for granted. Like, he just got so good that it almost got boring. Like, but like, no, I, you know, for me, like, being with Under Armour is like a pretty cool, like, full circle type of thing. Like, growing up, like, as like a Baltimore kid, like Ravens fan, like Orioles fan, you know, Under Armour was so cool when it like came, like when I was in like middle school and it was becoming a thing. Like, you know, I remember one of the first pairs of shoes they released was like the Proto Evade or something like that, and they came in this clear case and it was so sleek, and they had this completely useless strap over like the toes, like, and I bought those and I ran the Baltimore Run Fest 5K in them, which is like still an Under Armour event. Like, so to come back and be running like the best of my career in a brand that I like have legitimate ties to, like from way back, is pretty cool. And like, luckily enough for me, like, they make great stuff. Like it's, you know, the spikes are great. The trainers, like, this is the healthiest year of training that I've ever had. Like, and that's not to disparage other brands of shoes that I wore before, but like, it might not be because of the, you know, the shoes, but it's certainly not like, they're certainly not causing me any issues. Like, right. I'm not having injuries because of them. Like, I'm avoiding them. And there's something to be said for even as simple as that with like the trainers. Like, at the end of the day, you've got to like the trainers. Like, so, yeah, it's, I like that, like, you know, I like the casual stuff. Like, I'm getting older now, so I just wear like black and white. Like, I'm a pretty boring guy now with my fashion choices. But, you know, they still got like, they got some cool casual stuff. And, you know, it's nice to like feel like you can still rep the brand. Like, I will say it's nice to feel like you can still rep the brand and like look cool in like something like this. Like, sure, you know, where I'm sure there's not like the sort of variety with maybe some of these other brands. I feel like you know, I can go out with my like Under Armour stuff on and be like, all right, like this, you know.
I'm styling.
Yeah,
I'm styling.
exactly. Like that is a nice feeling to have. So, yeah.
Vince, one final serious question for you.
Sure.
To those listening to our conversation, they watched you last night, they watched the guts, they look up to your story and how far you've come in this sport. What would be the final takeaway message you want to leave with our audience today?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say anything that like hasn't, you know, wouldn't have already been said by someone else or something cliched, but like I just think that like what yesterday like proved to me is like, you know, if you can cultivate like enough self-belief in something, and that's cultivating self-belief with the belief of others, like combining those two things, like it doesn't have to be in running, like, but you know, it doesn't really matter like how many like people think or don't think that you're like capable of something. Like if you have those people in your corner plus your own belief, like if you match that up with the work to like truly make that happen, like it, you know, it almost did for me. And this is I've never made a US team. And my only goal was to come out of this meet making an Olympic team that no one would have picked me for. And I think I got, even though I didn't achieve it, I think I got a lot of closer than a lot of people outside of my corner would have thought I would. And that's from matching up that self-belief with, you know, the work to make that thing achievable. And I think it's hard when it's a lot longer of a process than you want it to be. Like I did not expect it to take 6 years as a pro to get to where I wanted to be, but I'm so grateful. Like I feel like I have a heightened appreciation for it because it took so long, and I still got there, like, or almost got there, but got there in a sense where any other year that performance would have been enough, you know? And I think that's a really important thing to take home, because particularly in running, because it really can't, you know, not everyone is going to make it be like Hobbs and make an Olympic team when they're 21 years old. Like, you know, not everyone is going to make an Olympic team in general, like, you know, but whatever your highest level of performance is that you're aiming for, whatever level that you're at, like, you know, if you can be patient enough to let that self-belief eventually come to fruition, it's really rewarding, no matter how it ends up actually, you know. Like I know that I'll look back on this weekend and it'll be rewarding, even though it wasn't exactly what I wanted. And I know it'll be rewarding because those people that believed in me, myself, even though it took a long time, like it still happened. It you know, it happened to a degree that I can be proud of and they can be proud of. And I think like runners are a specific type of people that are capable of that patience and capable of that self-belief. And yeah, it doesn't matter what specifically you're striving towards. Like that would be my biggest takeaway from this weekend, and really from like my whole career at any level. Yeah.
Vince, final question I ask every single guest on every single episode. If you had Gordon Ramsay coming over to your house for dinner, what would you choose to make for him?
It's an easy question for me.
Okay.
I would make salmon tacos, which I make like 1 to 2 times a week, every week for the past like, I don't even know how many years. It's anyone who's had it, it's not that complicated, but anyone who's had it has enjoyed it. My family now makes it, you know, on their own time.
Okay. It's a staple.
Yeah,
in the
like
Ciattei household.
it's a meal that I'll make for like other people if I like, you know, want to, like if I'm entertaining 1 or 2, maybe 3 people. Like, yeah, so salmon tacos, I made it myself. Like, you know, I come to Eugene, I have plenty of my favorite restaurants here that I know and love, And before the prelim and before the final, I made salmon tacos in the Airbnb for myself.
There you
It's
go.
about as boring as you could get, but like I stick with it.
It's the key to 331.
Yeah, exactly.
Vince, appreciate the conversation.
Yeah.
Excited to see you make a team one day. It's going to
Thanks,
happen.
Dominic.
Keep crushing it.
Thanks, man.